This story begins in the underworld. The main character climbs the stairs to the underground hall. A sword is in his hand. Armed men are blocking his way. He has already left several corpses behind him. He was once an assassin for hire, but from the moment he failed the mission, he was persecuted. Being forced and driven to the cliff, he jumped off it. He thought he was dead, but the jump unexpectedly brought him to the underworld. Life in this new world turned out to be a massacre, and when he finally became the most powerful of all, people called him the Supreme Demon. Now, after 500 years, he has a chance to return back to his world. The thought of returning makes him smile. He stands in front of an underground hall, which is under guard. The guards protecting the entrance to the underground hall block the way to the demon, forbidding him to go further. They are really ready to use weapons if he decides to resist. A man with dark long hair and a white robe asks the demon to stop right now, then all his sins will be forgiven. These words cause only laughter from the ancient demon. He challenges the speaker to see if he dares to stop him. The demon uses his power, which causes everyone present to be thrown back. In the blink of an eye, the demon approaches the man, both of them holding swords. One defends, the other attacks. The attacker's strength exceeds the strength of his opponent. With his sword he breaks the blade of someone else's sword into two parts, and the opponent flies to the wall. He is no longer able to resist. In the center of the hall, the demon approaches the object he needed. A glowing blue ball, the floor under which is painted with strange patterns. This is the pearl of the underworld. If you break it, then the demon can be released into the real world. Finally, this day has come. The 500 years he spent practicing and killing were not in vain. For so many years, he had only one goal: to break this pearl and leave this world. He promised to end it. The man in white only stretches out his hands to the demon to stop him. He warns that the three worlds will be in great danger if the pearl breaks. But the demon is already raising his sword aloft, preparing for a crushing blow. It seems that he does not particularly care about the words of warning, because the safety of the three worlds is not his concern. The demon breaks the pearl. The wind rises. Blue smoke emanates from the broken ball, rising up in twisting stripes. Then the beam breaks out, blurring everything around with light. The sound wave reaches many creatures in this place. They fly away, covering their ears. In the next second, the demon moves to the area of light. By the way, his clothes are also changing. Now he is dressed much more simply. Cars, houses, trees are all around him. The most ordinary world. In this place, he recognizes his residential area. He's really back. He wants to check something. A blue flame is lit in his hand. The demon concludes that his powers are still with him even here. 100 years in the underworld is equal to a year in this one. It's only been 5 years. Now the demon's thoughts revolve around one girl. Does she remember her promise? Wait here for his return. The demon decides not to hesitate. First, you just need to look at home. He approaches the door, from behind which a dissatisfied voice is heard. The words of this man are like threats. He scolds someone for the dishes, asks to be careful and not to drip on the floor. Otherwise the next drop will be a drop of blood. The demon is shocked. Who are these people inside? It's not the voice of the girl he's been thinking about all this time. He knocks on the door. The man behind the door swears again, ordering to open the door and not to stand like a pillar. Small feet and cute slippers make you laugh to do what you are assigned. Hands reach for the door handle. The door opens. The demon's gaze meets the gaze of a little girl whose big blue eyes are filled with tears. She rushes to him, calling him daddy and wrapping her arms around his leg. The demon is confused and does not understand what is happening and why this girl calls him father. He asks her to leave him alone because he is not her father. But the girl does not listen to him. She continues to rejoice and cry, saying that she was waiting for him very much. He's her father because he looks the same as in the photo. What kind of photo are we talking about? An adult lady appears at the entrance with a rod in her hands. She seems angry because of the noise. She is not allowed to eat in peace and quiet. Does someone want to be beaten up? The girl falls silent, hides behind the guest and, stammering, asks the lady for forgiveness. She seems to be afraid. She, in turn, pays attention to the person who came to them. She recognizes him as the same Ju fan who disappeared for 5 years and has now returned. By his appearance, she suggests that he is not in the best position. But Ju fan doesn't know who this woman is and doesn't know how she found out his name. It turns out that this adult lady is the babysitter nurse that Su Muzu hired. Muzu was telling the nurse about her husband, Ju fan. To say that Ju fan is surprised is to say nothing. When he hears the name of his beloved, he first asks where she is, and learns from the nurse that Muzu has disappeared, leaving the baby in the hands of the nanny. Now, according to the lady, since he is already here, he must take care of his child himself, so let him take him with him. Zhu Fan asks if she is really his daughter and gets a positive answer. The woman talks rudely and even allows herself to call the girl a stupid brat. Zhu Feng sits down to be on the same level with the girl. He touches her shoulder with his hand and asks 2 questions. What is her name and how old is she? From the answer, he learns that the girl's name is Zhu Yuman. She will soon be 5 years old. He begins to count, remembering the night he spent with his beloved a few years ago. Then he asked her to get married and give birth to a child. They started talking about this topic. Zhu Fan then said that he would like a daughter who would be as beautiful as her mother. He would like to call her Zhu Man, in short, Yum. He did not come up with a name for the boy, saying that Su Muzu herself could do it. She only laughed kindly, noting that it was so unfair. Now Zhu Fan really believed that his daughter was standing in front of him, and she looks so much like her mother. There are 2 more people in the apartment. They also come to the noise, asking what is going on. The woman only replies that the girl's father has come to pick her up. Now she asks Zhu Fan to hurry up and take his daughter with him. The demon is surprised why he is being asked to leave his own home. However, the whole family of this nurse is hostile. They claim that Su Muzu gave the house to the nanny on the condition that she would take care of this little girl. They all had to work hard to feed her. Zhu Yuman hesitates and touches his fingers as if he wants to say something. As a result, the truth comes out. In fact, the girl's mother gave them a lot of money. She said that this house is her memory of her husband. She couldn't give the house away. The nurse is enraged by the girl's antics and is about to hit her, swinging her hand, in which she has been holding the rod all this time. Human covers his head with his hands, opens his eye to see why there was no blow, and sees how the evil woman stands and cannot move, as if enchanted. Zhu Fan takes the girl's hand. He's angry. This woman dared to hit his daughter right in front of him. She apparently dreams of death. A woman stands, completely immobilized, in front of Zhu Fan, who is holding his daughter's hand. The girl's eyes seem to shine with happiness when she looks at her father. The son and father of the nurse are anxiously circling around her, asking if everything is all right with her. They do not understand what happened. The demon picks up a little girl in his arms and begins to calm her down. He says that everything will be fine now. No one will hurt her anymore because he will be there. Human turns out to be very brave. She says she wasn't scared at all, and adds that mom said a lot of good things about dad, said he was the best. Anger returns to Zhu Fan when he sees a bruise on his daughter's body. He immediately understands what's going on. His face was grimmer than ever. The son of that insolent woman picks up a bat, clearly intending to use it for its intended purpose. He calls Zhu Fan a jerk who did something to his mother, ungrateful, decided to repay in this way for taking care of his offspring. The demon looks affectionately at Meng Meng and asks her to close her eyes and ears, because he is going to deal with everything. That battle fulfills the request. The demon's gaze is no longer the same as he looked at his daughter. He's full of anger right now. Do they mean to say that they took care of his child? Fine, then now he will take care of them in the same way. A scream is heard. The demon commands to kneel. This trio falls to the ground, landing on their knees and lowering their heads. Sweat flows from them like a stream. Zhu Fan holds his daughter with one hand and draws some symbols in the air with the other, creating a spell with which he can now control the bat with just a wave of his hand. The first blow falls on the back of one of the men, who is already crying and screaming in pain. He asks for forgiveness, if only he would not be beaten again. The mother joins her son's pleas and apologies. She says that they know their sins and will leave the house immediately. But Zhu Fan doesn't think these people deserve forgiveness. He is still angry, makes another blow, and the bat, touching someone else's back, splits into 2 parts. The woman asks to stop. The demon makes a wave of his hand, preparing to strike, and says that now they know what fear is. But unfortunately, for them this is just the beginning. She is going to hit, but the girl has already opened her eyes and now sees everything that is happening. She grabs her father's clothes and asks him to stop. The sharp part of the bat broken in 2 stops a centimeter from the woman's eye. Zhu Fan no longer looks at the perpetrators, as if they are not here at all. He begins to talk to his daughter. The girl tells about her mother's words, "You can't hurt anyone, so dad shouldn't hit them." Tears are already flowing from her eyes. They didn't take care of Zhu Yaoman properly, so the demon wants to teach them a lesson. But Meng Meng is not angry anymore. Let her dad stop too. He came back to give the girl happiness. Su Muzu taught their daughter to be so kind. Since the girl said so, this time Zhu Fan will forgive these people. He touches the girl's forehead with his finger to heal all her wounds. The bruises heal. The girl notices that all her wounds have disappeared. She looks at her cool dad with delight. Zhu Fan rudely addresses the offenders, telling them to get out of his sight. They do what they are told. They slowly leave, a woman and a man holding their son, who was beaten, by the arms, helping him to walk. The girl's stomach starts to rumble. Ju Fan smiles, concluding that she is hungry. The girl confirms this, and they decide to enter the house. There, the demon leaves the girl on the couch to sleep while he cooks something. Yuman obeys. Her eyes are already closing. The demon turns away and his gaze becomes dissatisfied again. He's obviously up to something. On a dark street illuminated by the light of lanterns, there are 3 people who do not seem to have learned their lesson. They are upset that they are now in a terrible state, since this beggar can use magic. A man who can't even walk without parental help gets angry and says that he will call his homies to deal with him. He will not see a quiet life anymore. Ju Fan stands behind these people and hears everything. He clenches his teeth in anger, asks to repeat what he said. Who will not see a quiet life there anymore? These 3 did not expect that someone was watching them. When they heard a voice behind them, they were scared. The woman turned around and asked why he was following them. Meng Meng forgave them, and that's how they decided to thank her. Ju Fan can't ignore their words. The man who was beaten with a bat was taken aback. Haven't they received forgiveness recently? A blue flame appears in the demon's hand. Meng Meng forgave these people, but he, as a father, can't just leave it. The demon directs his flame at everyone. They scream and burn in it, and when the flame goes out, people's appearance changes. The woman asks with horror what happened to her. In an instant, she seemed to have aged by several years. The demon explains, because of his daughter's request, he will not kill them, but he will take 20 years of life from each. He warns that he will kill them for real if this happens again. Ju Fan is coming home. There he goes to the wall, finds a button on it, presses it, the wall begins to move, and the demon gets into a secret room full of weapons, black suits and money. He decides that this money should be enough for him to ensure his daughter's future. Now, as he said earlier, he starts cooking. All the necessary ingredients are on the table. He is preparing several dishes. A pleasant smell reaches the sleeping human. She inhales it with pleasure, gets up, rubbing her eyes, and says that it smells very tasty. Ju Fan in an apron calls his daughter to eat and sets the table. The girl joyfully runs to the table with exclamations. Finally, at least some food. She jumps on a chair and with sparkling eyes looks at everything that her father has prepared. The demon tells her to start eating, not just watching. Human does just that. She bites off a piece of meat and she likes it. Dad cooks much better than mom. Ju Fan looks fondly at how the child is eating, but tells her to take her time so she doesn't choke. He's ready to cook for her every single day if she likes his cooking so much. The girl becomes sad because of the memories of her mother. If she were here with them, Meng Meng misses her very much. Ju Fan strokes the girl's head, soothing her. He promises to find his mother, so the girl must take care and worry about herself. She must eat her fill. Yuman understands this. The man thinks about Su Muzu while the girl continues to eat. Suddenly there is a knock on the door. Ju Yuman is sure that this is Sister Fu, so she runs to open the door. Ju Fan hears voices. The girl brought Meng Meng some food. The girl invites Sister Fu into the house. She says that her father has prepared many great dishes. Sister Fu is surprised by the news of the girl's father's return. Yum leads her sister to the table to show her father. She introduces the two by telling them that Sister Fu brought her something to eat when he wasn't there. But Sister Fu is not very happy to meet. Ju Fan thanks the girl for taking care of Meng Meng all this time. Fu Shaoxing calls the man a jerk, slaps him in the face with his palm. He doesn't understand anything. Why is he a jerk? Fu Shaoxing holds onto the hand that she just stabbed and continues to pour insults, saying that Ju Fan does not deserve to call himself a father. Does he know how humans suffered while waiting for him? Did his heart flinch at least once? The girl intervenes, asking Sister Fu not to blame her father, because his return made her incredibly happy. Ju Fan says Fu Shaoxing is right. He is guilty, but now he can promise that he will never leave his daughter again. He hugs her tightly, and the girl begins to cry loudly. Shaoxing was upset that Meng Meng was crying because of him, but for her sake the girl forgives this man. She immediately becomes kind, offering the child something to eat. The girl points to the table, repeating that Dad has prepared a lot. She calls her sister to eat with them. Shaoxing says that he will not taste this person's food under threat of death, but in a second he is already sitting at the table with the others. She will stay the dish. She likes it, but she doesn't want to admit it, so she says she doesn't find anything amazing in his food. The demon thinks that girls are absolutely incomprehensible creatures. Shaoxing believes that Ju Fan is bad at fatherhood, but knows how to cook. This can be perceived as an outstanding feature. After some time, she raises an important topic. Ju Fan should take care of Yuman in the future. This year she will have to go to kindergarten and go through school. This is all new to the demon, but he won't keep the girl at home all this time. The previous family was too greedy and did not want to send her to school, but now he is here, so the child can go. Ju Fan thanks the girl for the advice. Tomorrow he will find her a good place. But this is not necessary. Fortunately, Fu Shaoxing works as a teacher at the same school. He can take Yuman with him. Her school is not so bad, so he can rely on the girl. Meng Meng is glad. She wants to go to Sister Fu. Ju Fan doesn't mind either. The girl will go to school. She is delighted with the thought of it. Everyone is sitting at the table and smiling. Ju Fan reminds his daughter about the rice that she has to finish. At this moment, someone's shadow appears on their door. A man in a black suit breaks down the door with his foot. Unknown people come inside, more like bandits, all dressed and look the same. A man with blonde hair stands out among them, apparently the main one. He turns to the demon, the girl, and Shaoxing, noticing that they are enjoying the meal. Ju Fan says the man scared his daughter. Does he really want to go to the next world? Ju Fan, the girl clinging to him, and Fu Shaoxing are standing in front of the uninvited guests, who so unceremoniously broke into the house, interrupting their meal. One of the guards of the blonde man was ready to attack Ju Fan for what he had said earlier, but the chief calmed him down, saying that they were here to talk, not to fight. He seems to notice for the first time that Miss Fu is also here. He turns to her with a question. Does she want to go against them and ask the boss not to sell this house? The girl looks gloomy. She replies that the residents of the house were given such a small compensation and decided to cheat, so she will not leave it just like that. The man bursts into laughter. Does she really think she can change anything? He takes a chair by the back, pushes it away from the table, sits down and continues talking. Holding a sheet in his hand, this is a contract for the purchase and sale of a house. He hands the contract to Ju Fan, saying that he will sign it. Ju Fan looks at the sheet, but Fu Shaoxing immediately says not to sign anything, because this contract is a clear fraud, and Lin Shu's real estate company has always had a bad reputation. The guest does not agree. He raises his index finger up, asking not to listen to this woman. Besides, they paid good compensation. Moreover, the man notices that Ju Fan has a daughter. If he does not want to sign a contract and problems do not frighten him, then it is worth thinking at least about his daughter. Ju Fan frowns when a man talks about a girl. Fu Shaoxing is shocked that they are being threatened. These people have no conscience at all. The guest takes a pen out of the pocket of his suit and gives a little advice. Ju Fafu, being a father, should not look for problems on his head, because his family may be in a worse situation. He puts his pens on the table next to the contract. Ju Yuman turns to her father. Holding his hand, she believes that her mother will not be able to find them if her father sells the house. The demon reassures his daughter with a smile. Since she said so, he will not sell the house. The blonde man, who had been so calm before, loses his temper. He shouts at the girl, calling her a spoiled child, so that she would shut up. Meng Meng gets scared and tightens his grip on his father's clothes, who is holding the contract in his hands. He remembered that he had warned the guests not to frighten his daughter. The sheet in his hands turns out to be torn into two parts. Ju Fan looks at the man with displeasure and asks if he wants to die. Here the rest of the men intervene again, who seem surprised by such impudence and audacity on the part of Ju Fan. Did he dare to talk like that to their assistant, Lin Tian? Lin Tan is shocked by what is happening himself. Ju Fan says they talk too much and he wants to help them finally shut up. With a wave of his hand, he uses his magic to seal the men's mouths. Their eyes widen. They are in complete bewilderment, trying to tear off the face of what just turned out to be on it. Fu Shaoxing covers his mouth with his hands in surprise, wondering what Ju Fan did. Only the demon is calm. He smiles and asks his daughter if she likes monkeys. The girl holds on to her father and responds positively. She likes monkeys. Then the man asks her to close her eyes and promises to bring her a chimpanzee. With her hands, Yuman covers her eyes and asks where her father will take the chimpanzee. Ju Fan asks her to sit quietly, because very soon she will find out everything. He kneads his fingers and then clicks or. Something strange begins to happen to men. They do not understand what is the matter, but they cannot speak because their mouths are firmly sealed. Lin Tian looks up at Ju Fan, looking at him in fright. The demon has a smug grin on his face. He says he won't be polite. Ju Yuman asks her father if she can open her eyes. He looks at his daughter and allows her to do it. She looks at the men. There is nothing on their mouths that would prevent them from talking. They gasp, covered with bruises and bruises. The girl has a question to her father. Why are they all covered in blood? The demon doesn't have a better answer. He thinks about it and says that it's not blood at all, it's just makeup. Fu Shaoxing exhales, touching his forehead with his hand. It seems that this excuse sounds very ridiculous. The girl asks Meng Meng not to look at it. It's better to go and continue eating. The demon tells the men to get out of his house and not come back, otherwise they will not be able to get out of here alive. Lin Tian quickly says that they have understood everything and will disappear immediately. All the uninvited guests roll out the door in turn. Zhu Fan silently watches what is happening. The three of them sit down at the table again. Fu Shaoxing is angry. From a professional point of view, she honestly advises Zhu Fan never to do such a thing in front of a child. The man obediently agrees, but thinks about the fact that the girl does not behave as if she is a specialist in parenting. The door to the house is still ajar, it is broken and there is a dent on it from a kick. Then they show a big house, inside which someone is beating dishes in anger. Lin Shi is a real estate owner, Lin Tian's boss, is tearing up and throwing up. He slams his fist on the table, scolds Lin Tian, calling him and the other men who were with him useless because there were a lot of them. But one person still managed to beat them, and they still dared to come back here. In his defense, Lin Tian reports that that guy has incredible strength. He used magic, so they would not be able to compete with him. However, Lin Shi considers all this nonsense. Would this person live in that backwater with such abilities? Does Lin Tian really think he's a cultivator? Lin Tian takes the teapot and pours tea to the boss, handing him a cup. He asks Lin Shi not to be angry, because, first of all, they must find a way to beat this guy to death and restore the image of their company. Boss Lin brings the cup to his mouth and voices the idea he has. If this guy can use magic, then they will also find a person who can use it. The door opens. The girl informs the boss that Master Chen has arrived. Lin Shi smiles and asks to let him in as soon as possible. Master Chen, a real cultivator, comes into the office. Lin Shi asks him to sit on the sofa. Now they are sitting at the table. Master Chen says that he has found out about Lin Shi's problem and now he should not worry about it. Boss Lin thanks the master for his help. Lin Tian says that the guy they encountered has incredible strength, so do not underestimate him. However, Master Chen is not worried. Ott says that that guy is only slightly stronger than Lin Tian, because Lin Tian is an ordinary person. If that guy encounters a terrible monster, will he be his opponent? Master Chen joins his hands. Behind his back, the monster's big glowing eyes light up. Lin Tian falls off his feet when he sees the monster behind the master. Stammering, he asks what it is. Master Chen says that this is the spirit of his former pet. He wanted to find out how his strength will change now. Now Lin Tian is sure that with the master they will certainly win, because it will be difficult to stand up against this monster. Master Chen only lets out a laugh and then orders his pet, which looks like a huge wolf, to hurry up and find their opponent. The monster obediently howls back at him. Boss Lin raises the cup, offering the master a drink for the victory. The laughter of Master Chen is heard, who asks the boss to be sure of their success. Meanwhile, Zhu Fan brought his daughter sleeping in his arms to the nursery. He turns on the light and discovers that everything in the room is well furnished. Definitely her mother tried, but it seems that the furniture has already aged. The demon remembers those people who lived here as at home, and involuntarily swears. Shaoxing asks him not to express himself like that in front of the child, because it will have a bad influence on her. Zhu Fan thinks that this woman is so problematic. Meng Meng should not become the same girl in the future. He only says out loud that he understood everything. The woman tells him to give her a baby. She takes the girl and puts her in bed, looking tenderly at the sleeping human. Zhu Fan stands nearby and watches what is happening. Fu Shaoxing walks away from the bed and tells Zhu Fan that she has some baby clothes and some new blankets at home. She asks to go there and get some for Meng Meng. Zhu Fan came out of the apartment. He was standing near the door, whose condition left much to be desired. Fu Shaoxing told him, still standing near the broken door, that she lived right behind the next door. The woman went into the apartment and turned on the light. The room was spacious and cozy. Zhu Fan followed. Suddenly he stopped, asked to wait. He felt that something was wrong. Fu Shaoxing was rummaging in the closet. She told Zhu Fan to put on slippers before entering the house, because this is a very important rule. She was reaching for her slippers, continuing to say that these are the basics of exemplary behavior. He should instill this habit in Meng Meng so that she would do the same. Zhu Fan said that he understood everything and thanked the woman. However, his inner demon was categorically against it. He couldn't imagine any father wanting his daughter to be such a bore. Shaoxing tells the man to follow her, but Zhu Fan still has a strange premonition. He closes his eyes. It seems strange to him that he feels the presence of the spirit here. Are these monsters from the underworld? Something is wrong here. Why is the aura of spirit so close to his home? Shaoxing continues his instructions. As Meng Meng's father, Zhu Fan should make a role model of himself. He should take good care of her. But it seems that no one was listening to her anymore. She turned her head to the side and saw a huge hole in the wall. Zhu Fan, overcoming all obstacles on the way, including tearing out the door, rushed home to his daughter. In the children's room, the monster had already crept up to the bed in which Yuman was sleeping sweetly. He smiled and stretched out his hand to her, but Zhu Fan appeared in the room, sternly calling out to the monster, asking him to stay away from his daughter. The monster turned to the demon and asked who he was and why he had such great power. Zhu Fan said that he was someone who should not be messed with. He glared at the spirit and said that he would kill him if he did not leave his daughter right now. How does he prefer to die, immediately or in pain? The spirit was not afraid of threats. He thought that this guy fancied himself to be someone special, since he had great power. But he should not be arrogant, because he is just an ordinary person who thinks that he can overcome him, the spirit. The monster said he would kill his daughter right in front of him. Zhu Fan became even more angry. He used magic. A huge red snake appeared in the room. It was rushing at the enemy with its mouth open. She wrapped her body around and squeezed the spirit. Now he seemed surprised. He asked how this was possible. It was definitely not the kind of power that an ordinary person could wield. Zhu Fan looked at the monster that was trapped and smiled. He said that the creatures from the underworld are too weak for him. Killing such small spirits is very easy for him. Now the monster seemed agitated. He began to beg for forgiveness, asked for his life, because he really didn't want to do it. He had to, because he was ordered. Zhu Fan frowned. Who ordered this creature to do this? The spirit guiltily laid out all the details. It was a sorcerer named Chen. He was hired by the owner of a real estate company, Lin Shi. The demon realized that this was the work of the same people who had recently come to his house and forced him to sign a contract. The monster in the snake's arms asked to be released now that he had told everything. Zhu Fan said, of course. He clenched his fist and the snake destroyed the monster. Did he really think Zhu Fan would say that? Shaoxing entered the room, asking what happened here. There were still traces of the spirit that used to be here in the air. The snake was gone. The demon said it was already over. Fu Shaoxing screamed in fright, looking in the direction where something was clearly happening. Zhu Fan turned in the same direction where the woman's frightened gaze was directed. The spirit that somehow remained alive was now much smaller than before. It was rushing towards the sleeping girl, and Zhu Fan was looking at it with round eyes. Zhu Fan stretched out his hand to grab the monster, but the monster was faster. The demon just didn't have time to catch it. Oh no. Before he knew it, the inevitable happened. Fu Xiaoxing exclaimed that this strange creature had penetrated directly into the girl's body. Zhu Fan was silent, but Xiaoxing urged him to say something. She touched his shoulder. Zhu Fan turned around, glaring at the woman. She was scared, asking what was wrong with him and if he was okay. The voice of the spirit was heard. Who was going to tell what was wrong with him? The girl's body rose into the air. The spirit said that it had already captured this body, and even if Zhu Fan had enough strength to pull it out, the girl's body would still suffer. Judging by the condition of the man, he should clearly understand the current situation. The girl's eyes were already wide open. The creature from the underworld had really captured her. Shaoxing couldn't believe that such a thing was possible. The monster said that now Zhu Fan can't kill him, but he can kill Zhu Fan. The girl's eyes were glowing. Her hands aimed a blow at Zhu Fan. The spirit was sending him to hell. A sharp purple shard flew straight at the man. Shaoxing shouted for Zhu Fan to react. With one hand, the demon stopped a moving object, cutting his palm with it. Zhu Fan, holding the shard in his hands, shouted for the monster to leave his daughter's body. He clenched his fist tightly. The object in his hand cracked and crumbled into pieces. The demon ordered the spirit to get out immediately. The wind rose in the room, which almost blew away even people. Shaoxing, whose hair was blowing in the wind, covered her face with her hands, hardly opened her eyes, asking what was going on. The monster did not believe that he was so easily pulled out of the girl's body. Now he was outside and was vulnerable. Zhu Fan grabbed Yuman with one hand, and with the other hand, bloody, grabbed the monster by the throat. He asked not to kill him. He admitted that he was wrong, said that it was his mistake. But the man said he wanted to hear his agonizing moans. He squeezed the spirit's throat. It writhed in pain until it disappeared. Shaoxing watched all this while covering her mouth with her hands. When the monster was destroyed, Zhu Fan sadly apologized to his daughter, whom he still held in his arms and hugged tightly. She began to move. With sighs, opened one eye. She looked at Dad and decided it was morning. Zhu Fan looked at his daughter in surprise and asked if she was okay. He touched her cheeks with his hand. The demon looked at the girl with concern. He apologized, saying that he was scared and stopped controlling his strength, asked if she had any pain. The girl, who did not even suspect that something had happened while she was sleeping, replied that she was fine and asked what had happened. But Zhu Fan said that there was nothing, and he thought that it was impossible, because even an adult would have suffered greatly after being captured by a monster, let alone such a small child. He was holding the girl's hand with his eyes closed. Is it possible that Meng Meng is physically different from ordinary people? The girl was sitting on the bed, her father was next to her. He saw some kind of glowing ball inside her, which was really a little strange. What is it and who is she really? Sheoxing was also standing in the room and witnessed what was happening now. Yuman asked her father if he had finished yet. He decided that it was not worth constantly thinking about what he saw. From now on, no matter what happens, he will protect her thoroughly. What happened today will never happen again. Zhu Fan patted his daughter on the head and said that he had already finished everything. The girl was surprised to see her father's bloody hand. Tears began to appear in her eyes. Her father hastened to reassure her, everything is in perfect order. His wound will heal very quickly. The girl said that dad should hurry up and treat the hand, because it hurts her very much to look at it. Zhu Fan replied that he knew that, but he had to do something first. He drew a sign with blood on the girl's forehead. At first it was bright red, then it faded a little, and soon it completely disappeared. Yuman touched her forehead, asking what it was. Zhu Fan said it was something that would be able to protect her. Now no monsters will be able to hurt her. But what kind of monsters are we talking about? The girl asked her father this question. He could not explain what kind of monsters they were, so he told his daughter to just fall asleep, because he had to do some things. Zhu Fan got up and walked over to Fu Xiaoxing. He held out his hand and asked her to give him hers. The girl listened, and on her palm the man drew the same symbol as earlier on the forehead of Meng Meng. This drawing resembled a snake that wraps around an object. Zhu Fan asked Xiaoxing to take care of Yum until he returned, because now he had to deal with an important matter, and then explained to the girl that he had drawn a protective amulet on her hand so that that spirit could not harm her. Xiaoxing asked where he was going to go. Already on the way, Zhu Fan said that he intended to return the favor. The house where Lin Shi lives. Men with dogs walked on its territory. Zhu Fan walked up to the gate, which had a sign with the inscription Lin Shi Real Estate. Suddenly, a piece of the fence flew to the side. Zhu Fan entered the territory with a loud shout. He was calling Lin Shi, asking him to come out and prepare for death. Zhu Fan walked straight to the front door, leaving the broken wall behind. The guards were surprised at how this man got through the gate. Did he use explosives? But how is this possible? Is there an explosive that explodes without smoke? Zhu Fan said that he only wanted to kill Lin Shi so everyone else could get out of his sight. The guard, who kept an angry dog next to him, was dissatisfied with the fact that some man dares to call the name of his boss. He released the dog, ordering him to attack the guest, whom no one was expecting. The dog was rushing towards Zhu Fan. He just looked at it, and then said that anyone who gets in his way will be killed. His eyes widened, blue flames burned around him. The dog flew back, leaving a trail on the ground. She was unconscious now. The guards were scared. Someone in fear threw a weapon on the ground. Zhu Fan stepped over the dog, repeating once again what he had already said. He was shouting for everyone to disappear. The guards were scattered to the sides. Everyone was now lying on the ground, and Zhu Fan, embittered, walked on. At this time, Master Chen and Boss Lin were drinking tea. There was a wad of money on the table. Lin Shi was unhappy that it was too noisy outside. Lin Tian said he would go and check what was going on there so that the boss wouldn't worry. He went to the door, opened it, and there was a man standing outside. Very soon he recognized him as the guy, so he collapsed on the floor in fright. Zhu Fan looked down at him, and Lin Tian, groaning, quickly ran to the boss, hiding behind his back. He told the chief that this is the guy who crippled them. Boss Lin turned to the master, who sent his monster after him. So why doesn't this guy look injured at all? Master Chen seemed to be excited too. He assumed that the guy left before the monster appeared, and then decided to check something out. The master connected his index finger and thumb. His eyes widened. He wondered how this could happen, because now he could not feel his monster. Zhu Fan smiled broadly. Of course, the old man can't feel his monster. He could only do this before the monster was destroyed. And now it's the turn of the master himself. Chen said that he underestimated a guy whose strength turned out to be many times more powerful than he had expected. Zhu Fan noticed that his strength, if you rely on their brains, is really unimaginable. Lin Tian whispered in the boss's ear that this guy, as previously said, would never agree to a deal. You can't look down on him. He added that they angered a person who shouldn't have been angered, so now it's over. Boss Lin turned to the master to decide what they should do now. Master Chen calmly replied that killing his pet alone would not be enough to awaken fear in him. He still has a trump card up his sleeve. Lin Shi was glad to hear these words from the master. Zhu Fan was curious. He said he would give the old man another chance. Using magic, the demon pulled a chair that stood at the end of the room to him and sat down on it, leaning his head on his arm. He said he wouldn't budge, so the master would have time to demonstrate his trump card. The master bared his chest, saying that soon the guy would regret contacting him. He took off his clothes, showing off his back, on which some kind of sign was painted, and said that the spirit in his body was too domineering. Even he could not control it, so he sealed it inside himself. But now is the time to awaken this spirit and give it a drink of blood. A huge monster with horns and wings appeared behind the master. His eyes were burning red, and fangs were sticking out of his mouth. The wind rose in the office, documents and notebooks were lifted into the air, but Zhu Fan was not even surprised. He just continued to smile. But the other two people who were here also opened their mouths wide and were sweating. The monster said that he had once asked not to summon him just like that. He stepped onto the floor, and Master Chen told him that he remembered his request. But due to the problem that had arisen, he could only rely on him. The monster was surprised to see the problem. Had this skinny boy scared him so much, even forced him to summon him? Chen asked not to underestimate this guy, because he killed one of his monsters. Zhu Fan, who was watching the scene, asked if the two would finally finish chatting. He had waited so long to see such a frail monster, although he had hoped for something better. The monster did not expect to be called weak, so he decided that the guy should pay for his words. Breaking the floor under his feet, he went straight to his goal. Zhu Fan did not move from his place, and the smile did not leave his face. He promised to sit in the same place and said that he would forgive the monster if he could harm him. The bully decided that the guy was tired of life since he allows himself to talk to him like that. He menacingly advanced on him, and then hit him hard, but collided with a barrier that his fist could not overcome. With his blow, he didn't even hurt the man sitting calmly in the chair with a smug smile. The monster struck again. The fingers on his hands broke on the protective barrier. He held on to his sore arm and was really shocked by the outcome. Zhu Fan looked at the pathetic attempts to harm him. The three men, even Master Chen, were all the more shocked because such a bully could not do anything to a simple guy. The monster was on his knees, leaning his head and hands to the floor. He was crying. His hands were no longer regenerating. Zhu Fan, who had already got up from his seat, put his foot on the monster's head. He had said that this giant was too weak. Did anyone really think it was a joke? Master Chen turned pale with bewilderment. How is this possible? This guy defeated his strongest monster so easily. The monster, without changing his posture, asked how Zhu Fan knew about the underworld. Who was he, after all? Zhu Fan was calm, and then went berserk, saying that this is not what the monster deserves to know. He kicked him. He flew against the wall, pinning his master. Lin Tian stood as if in water lowered. He already realized that this is the end. It's over. Master Chen was sitting against the wall, rolling his eyes up. He looked tired and exhausted. His monster suddenly opened its mouth, from which it shot out spiritual energy, its pure power, which can be compared to 10,000 tons of explosives. I wonder how this guy will cope with such power. The ball from his mouth flew straight at Zhu Fan, but he effortlessly stopped it using only one hand. A little shallow, he squeezed his hand, destroying this clot of energy. The monster wondered how such a thing had happened. All his might didn't even scratch the opponent. Zhu Fan said that he had already played enough and it was time to finish it. The bully, sensing danger, decided that it was time for him to get out of here. He shrank and in a few jumps overcame the distance to the master, again penetrating into his body. Chen's face was transformed, his skin sagged, his eyes were full of horror. The monster decided to escape and hide in this man's body, but by following the path of his own death, he did Zhu Fan a great favor. Lin Shi called the master by name, looking with horror at his withered and frozen body that remained against the wall. Zhu Fan said that it was no longer possible to call him, because he had fallen asleep, because the monster that had taken over his body had once again possessed him. Now it's the turn of these men. Lin Tian fell to his knees, asking not to kill him, a small fry, because he was forced to follow all the orders of his boss. Zhu Fan generously decided to give the man a chance, but whether he can survive or not depends on himself. Lin Tian looked at the guy questioningly, not understanding what he was talking about. Zhu Fan kicked him. He flew off, breaking the wall behind him. I've dealt with one. Now Zhu Fan was talking to Boss Lin. Did he know that his daughter almost died today because of the monster they sent? As a father, it was very painful for him to see this. Lin Shi stood there and couldn't answer anything. Zhu Fan continued to speak. He said that today he did not want to give this man a chance. These words really scared the man. He began to protest. In modern society, killing a person can bring a lot of problems, so they can't just kill him. Zhu Fan smiled. Who said he was going to just kill him? He has hundreds of ways to make a man suffer until he dies. A blue flame lit up near the demon's index finger. He directed it at this vile man. The flame flew, reflected in his brown eyes, and then penetrated into his body right where people's hearts are. Lin Shi screamed in pain, kneeling down and clutching at the affected area. He viciously asked what had been done to him. Zhu Fan explained, nothing special. He only used a bit of demonic fire to slowly burn the heart. Another minute or two, and the man will not be able to utter a word. This pain will last for 2 days, and then Lin Shi will finally die. The man's eyes were filled with tears, sweat and snot were running down his face. Fear took hold of him. The demon smiled at the suffering of others, and no one will be able to find out that he was the killer. Lin Shi was already almost crawling at the guy's feet. He began to beg for forgiveness and insisted that he would not dare to do this again. Zhu Fan was ruthless. He was leaving, and behind him a man was reaching out to him with a pleading hand. Forgive him. He died the moment he sent the monster to kill Zhu Yuman. Lin Shi was lying on the floor. Words were already difficult for him. He was holding his heart with one hand, and the other was still reaching out to the person who could save his life. He asked him not to leave him, but he only saw his back. Zhu Fan did not even turn around in response to other people's requests. Leaving, Zhu Fan turned his attention to Lin Tian, who was trembling in fear of him. The demon came over and squatted down next to the man. He's still alive. Zhu Fan said that a man should understand what needs to be answered if there are any questions about what happened here. Lin Tian positively shook his head. He understood everything and was not going to say anything about Zhu Fan. Zhu Fan has finally returned home. He was standing in front of the door, and behind his back he was hiding a toy, a plush bunny. The girl reacted to the sound of the door opening. She was sitting in bed. Sheoxing was reading her a fairy tale. Yuman exclaimed that Dad was back and was very happy. She immediately informed her father that Sister Fu had told her a fairy tale. Zhu Fan smiled, repeating that Dad had returned, walked up to the girl, sat down by the bed and handed his daughter the toy he had bought for her. The girl really liked the bunny. She called him cute and immediately hugged him, thanking her father and saying that she really liked the gift. Sheoxing asked about the case that Zhu Fan had to deal with. Is it solved? The demon said that everything is over. These people will not dare to contact them again. He also used magic to repair the hole in the Sheoxing wall. Fu Sheoxing said it was great and was ready to leave them now that everything was fine. She promised to drop by tomorrow morning and take them both to kindergarten for admission. Yuman asks his father what they were talking about. He doesn't say, just pats the girl on the head. It's late, it's time for her to go to bed. Meng Meng lies down again, closes his eyes, hugging his new toy. And then she gets up again, asking her father to tell her a story for the night. Zhu Fan picks up a book, agreeing to tell the girl a story. This story is about a duckling. He begins his story sitting on a chair near the bed. Once there was a duckling. The girl lies under the blanket, falling asleep to the voice of her father reading her a fairy tale. The beginning of a new day. Kindergarten, a large bright building, on the territory of which there is a playground for children. This was where Zhu Fan, Meng Meng, and Fu Sheoxing were right now. The father held his daughter's hand. Sheoxing walked beside her in a beautiful pink dress. The girl exhaled with relief. Registration has finally ended. Now Meng Meng will be able to officially attend kindergarten, starting tomorrow. Zhu Fan admits that he is in debt to Miss Fu. The girl turns to her dad, asking if she really will be able to study in this place. He bends down and picks up his daughter in his arms, stroking her head, answering her question in the affirmative. Of course, now she will study here. The girl is happy that now she will finally be able to have fun with other children. She thanks her father and kisses him on the cheek. It seems that now he is happy, like a child. He is smiling all over. Zhu Fan puts his daughter down on the ground. She points her finger at the slide, saying that she wants to ride it. The father allows it, and the girl runs forward, exulting with joy. She will play on the slide. This thought makes her so happy. Sheoxing noticed that Meng Meng had become more open since Zhu Fan returned. They stood side by side and watched the girl having fun. Sheoxing says that raising a child is not so easy, so he should pay a lot of attention to her. The man understands this. He's back and doesn't want Meng Meng to experience any difficulties again. Beaming with happiness and insanely cheerful, Yuman rolled down the hill while the adults were talking. Sheoxing asked what Zhu Fan planned to do next. A lot of thoughts arise in his head. He wants to take Meng to the store, buy her new dresses, a crib, as well as the necessary office. Sheoxing likes how it all sounds, but she says she can't trust a man to buy, so she suggests writing down everything you need on a piece of paper so that he just buys what is on her list. Zhu Fan says he will be very grateful for her help. Suddenly, someone's dissatisfied exclamation is heard from the side. An unknown person asks Ju Fan who he is and how he dares to stand so close to Sheoxing. There are two men of strong build standing next to this guy, sunglasses on their eyes. Ju Fan doesn't understand what kind of person this is. At first he thinks it's Sheoxing's boyfriend, but she denies it, saying it's just some kind of pervert. The guy himself comes up tight with Ju Fan, announcing that he is Fu Sheoxing's boyfriend, so how dare someone try to steal her. Sheoxing shouts at the guy, whose name is Sun Tian, says that she has already refused him, so he should stop chasing her. Sun Tian pokes his finger right in Ju Fan's face, asking the girl if it was because of this guy that she refused him. Sheoxing stands with his arms crossed on his chest, and then touches Ju Fan's hand and confirms the assumption of the essence of Tian. Ju Fan just stands there, stunned by her antics. He turns to the girl, not understanding anything. She, in turn, looks at him, winking, tearfully asking him to play along with her. The guy thinks, but Sheoxing laughs at him, but she won't admit it. She says that she likes Ju Fan, so she really hopes that Sun Tian will never run after her again. Yum looks at what is happening and suddenly asks his father why Sister Fu is so close to him. Sun Tian's jaw drops, and Sheoxing and Ju Fan find themselves in an awkward position. A guy in love with Sheoxing grabs his head. He says he didn't know that the girl likes men with children. The girl answers him that it doesn't concern him what kind of men she likes. It's not his business at all. She just hopes that he won't bother her anymore. Now the guy is really angry. He says Sheoxing humiliated him. If he doesn't get something, then others can't dream about it. Ju Fan intervenes in the conversation, telling the guy to immediately stop all this because he has already been refused, and now he is only taking someone else's time. The demon was still going to go to the store. Yum had already managed to approach her father and take his hand. The demon turns to his daughter, preparing to leave here with her. The guy claps his hands. Two thugs block Ju Fan's path. Meng Meng hides behind his father, clinging to his clothes with his hands. The obsessed guy makes it clear that he did not allow him to leave. But Ju Fan does not intend to tolerate this. If this guy dared to stand in his way, then he should be prepared to die. Sheoxing asks not to fight on the school grounds. Ju Fan smiles, snaps his fingers, saying that he does not need to do anything. He will not be guilty of the fact that these guys will start beating themselves. The man with glasses frowns, his hand moves closer to his face and makes a punch. The glasses fly off my eyes. Sun Tian looks at his guards in disbelief and asks what Ju Fan has just done. Men continue to slap themselves in the face. Ju Fan warns that the guy will end up like them if he continues. Yum holds his father's hand, looks at what is happening and asks why these people started beating themselves. The demon suggests that perhaps these guys have problems with their heads, although who knows. This answer satisfies the girl. She continues to look with her mouth open. Sheoxing exhales, touching his forehead with his hand. Sun Tian is angry. It's not over yet. Now father and daughter can safely go about their business. Ju Fan wanted to take the girl to the store, so that's where they're going. At the entrance to a huge building there is a man dressed in a Mickey Mouse costume. Yum points at him with his finger and says that this mouse is very cute. Ju Fan leans over to his daughter and claims that she is much nicer. He takes her cheek, and she just laughs. They go inside and find a department with children's clothes. Ju Fan offers to go there to buy beautiful clothes for the girl. Yum exclaims happily that she will have new clothes. A satisfied father looks at her. He is also glad to see her like this. Ju Fan is sitting on the sofa, asking his daughter if she really doesn't need his help. In the fitting room, the girl changes clothes, saying that she will cope on her own, because she learned to dress herself at the age of 3. Ju Fan doesn't protest, letting the girl have her own way while he waits for her here. The consultant notices that this child is very smart. She tells the father that he brought up his daughter well. Ju Fan, smiling, replies that this is entirely the merit of her mother. The curtain in the fitting room moves away. The girl reports that she has finished dressing, and goes out to her father, asking if she is beautiful. Meng Meng holds her dress with her hands and looks at her father with a smile, waiting for his reaction. Ju Fan is all beaming when he sees his little miracle. He says that Meng Meng is very beautiful, the most beautiful of all. The girl runs up to her father, asks if he likes it, but he shakes his head negatively, saying no. This seems to upset Ju Yuman, and, lowering her eyes, she says that she will not take this dress, since her father does not like it. However, her father again takes her by the chubby cheeks and hurries to explain. He does not want to buy her only one dress. He wants to buy a lot of clothes for her. That's why Ju Fan suggests she go and choose something else. He is ready to buy anything she likes. The girl is pleased with this offer. Her eyes sparkle, and she runs to look at other dresses. After buying clothes, father and daughter come to the cooking area. There are a lot of people around. The girl walks next to dad, holding his hand. Zhu Fan looks at his daughter, wondering what she wants for lunch today. The girl says she really wants ice cream. Mom used to buy it for her, but she hasn't eaten it for a long time. Zhu Fan's gaze becomes a little sad, probably because of the memories of the girl's mother, his beloved Sumuzu. The demon agrees to try some ice cream. He points in the direction where this delicacy is sold and says that he is going to buy it, and Meng can stay here and wait for him. Human agrees to wait for his father here. He goes to the counter, gets in line, and turns his head in the direction of Meng. She sits at the table and happily examines the new dress, holding it in her tiny hands. Zhu Fan smiles contentedly. Behind the cheerful girl's back, a dark silhouette of someone hiding behind a wall is visible. His eyes shine red. An unkind smile appears on his face. Zhu Fan's ice cream is finally ready. He takes it and returns to his daughter, but is surprised to find that she is no longer in the same place. The dress she was holding in her hands is now lying on the floor. He screams in horror, not understanding where to do his daughter. Calling her by name, suddenly the girl got lost in the crowd. After that, he turns to passers-by girls, asking if they have seen a girl of about 5 years old. Short explains that this is his daughter, who has just been lost. The girls apologize and say they haven't seen any girl here. One of the girls in horror suggests the most terrible thing. Maybe she was abducted by some child traffickers. After all, there has been a lot of news about this lately. Another one objects, there can't be such a coincidence. But the first girl adds that this is just a blind guess. Even if it's true, she thinks these child traffickers couldn't get away. She says that you can ask for help from the security guards of the center. Zhu Fan is not very happy with such guesses. He rushes somewhere with all his legs, jumps out of the building, forcing ordinary observers to stand with their mouths open, lands and goes to the guards. A man in uniform is sitting at the table. Zhu Fan approaches, noisily leaning his hands against the table, and immediately lays out that his daughter was most likely abducted by child traffickers, so it is necessary to lock all the doors, including the exit to the parking lot. He also asks to tell everyone to pay attention to any suspicious person with a girl of about 5 years old who is wearing a dress. The man replies that even if this is true, he cannot close all the doors because it will cause problems for other people. He says that the staff will help to find her without resorting to such measures. Zhu Fan hits a column nearby. It cracks. The man, as well as his table, fly off to the side. People passing by don't understand what's going on. The demon is still holding his hand in the place where the dent from his fist remained. Now he is already demanding to close all the doors right now, threatening to kill if anything happens to his daughter. He frowns and continues to voice demands. The man must tell his people to close all the doors, otherwise he will not have time to do anything. A crowd of onlookers gathered around. On the speakerphone, a man announces the disappearance of a child and says to block all exits from the shopping center. Also asks to pay attention to any suspicious person with a 5-year-old girl. After the announcement, he hesitantly asks if Zhu Fan has photos of his daughter on his phone. He could send it to other guards to facilitate the search and find the girl faster. Zhu Fan thinks that he doesn't have any pictures with Meng Meng. What should he do now? And then he remembers that he drew a protective amulet on her forehead, which means that he can feel it. He was too confused, so he completely forgot about it. He leans the fingers of both hands against his temples, trying to concentrate, abstracting from everything around him. Then the demon abruptly opens his eyes. Here it is. Found. The man in uniform was so scared that he couldn't formulate what he wanted to say to Zhu Fan properly. He just mumbled incessantly about the photo. Zhu Fan didn't seem to be listening to him anymore. He already knew where his daughter was, so he did not answer the man, turned around, leaving him perplexed, and walked away. The demon flew up, overcoming several floors. Witnesses of what was happening were surprised. Some child addressed his mother, pointing his finger in the direction of the flying man. Zhu Fan landed on a hard surface and once again rushed off somewhere as fast as he could. In the storeroom, Meng Meng was unconscious. She was already wearing different clothes, a blue t-shirt with a typewriter, and light shorts. There was a bag nearby. The two were standing in the pantry, looking at the girl. The man told them to hurry up and do their job, so it would be easier for them to get out of here to do their job. The woman thought about it, and then pulled out a hair clipper from her bag. She had already brought it to the girl's head, preparing to shave off her hair. Suddenly, kicking down the door, Zhu Fan burst into the storeroom, causing surprise and criminals. They turned around. The woman looked excitedly at the newcomer. His gaze was frowning. He looked at his daughter, who was unconscious, and then at the hair-shaving machine in the woman's hands. His face was as gloomy as a cloud. The man pushed Zhu Fan in the shoulder, asking what he was doing here and who let him in. Without answering, the demon clenched his fist and struck his stomach. The man flew away, crashing into the wall and breaking it. Out of fear, his partner dropped the typewriter from her hands. It landed on the floor with a sound. The demon's hand reached out to the woman. He grabbed her by the neck, squeezing her throat tightly. The demon looked viciously, intending to send this criminal to hell. Her eyes rolled up. Tears began to flow from them. Drool flowed from her wide-open mouth. She held on with her hand to the hand of the one who was strangling her, but it was useless. Zhu Fan held the woman in the air with one hand. At that moment, the girl quietly called her father. The woman in his hand continued to writhe from lack of air. The girl called again. Now Zhu Fan heard her and immediately released the kidnapper. She immediately fell to the floor and coughed. Zhu Fan walked towards his daughter. He took her in his arms. His gaze was full of sadness and regret. The girl barely opened her eyes, looking at her father. Men in uniform came running into the storeroom. They began to ask what had happened here. Zhu Fan told everything. The two people who are in the pantry are child traffickers. They need to be handed over to the police. He himself takes his daughter to the hospital. Carefully holding Meng Meng in his hands, Zhu Fan hurried to take her to the hospital. It was already dark outside. The girl was running down the hospital corridor, out of breath. She came to the right room, tried to catch her breath there. It was Sheoxing. In the ward where Yuman was lying, she first asked Zhu Fan if the girl was okay. Zhu Fan relayed the doctor's words. There's nothing to worry about. He was sitting next to the girl and holding her hand. A sad look was directed at his daughter. Sheoxing came closer, saying that she had heard that Zhu Fan had destroyed the mall. She asked if he was okay. The demon replied that everything was fine. He paid for the destruction in the mall, and the people from this mall also promised to stop the persecution. Sheoxing let out a sigh of relief. She was glad to hear it, because she was scared to death by everything that happened today. Zhu Fan covered part of his face with his hand and became completely limp. He blamed himself for what had happened, because this would not have happened if he had been watching Meng all this time. Sheoxing put her hand on his shoulder, looked at the man with sympathy and asked him not to blame himself so much. It's not his fault, because no one can be near a child for 24 hours. Zhu Fan said that he called himself a venerable demon, but managed to put his daughter's life in danger twice. However, these 2 times turned out to be lucky. Like Meng herself, that's good. But will Yuman be as safe if suddenly something else happens? Fu Sheoxing only managed to say his name. The demon continued to speak. He realized that he could not always protect his daughter alone. Determined, he firmly stated that he had to find a strong bodyguard for Meng Meng. Sheoxing, raising her index finger up, said that the parent of one of her students has a company of bodyguards, so she could ask for such a service instead of him. Zhu Fan silently rejected this idea, only shaking his head from side to side. The girl asked who, then, in his opinion, would be good as a bodyguard for Zhu Yuman. The demon smiled, saying that, of course, he must find a person who will be so strong that, except for himself, no one can be his opponent. Fu Sheoxing wonders if there is even such a bodyguard as Zhu Fan mentioned. He replied that she would know if he existed or not as soon as Zhu Fan found out for himself. He touches his temple with his fingers again, trying to find the one he needs. The place in his head resembles a starry sky. He frowns, and a bright star lights up in this sky. Zhu Fan opens his eyes abruptly. He is pleasantly surprised. Unexpectedly, the one he found is also from the underworld, and he is a good choice for the role of a bodyguard for Meng. But Fu Sheoxing didn't understand who he was talking about. Who was this he? Zhu Fan takes a piece of paper out of his pants pocket and hands it to the girl. He says she shouldn't worry about it. She just needs to know that the one he was talking about is really an extraordinary person. The piece of paper he left her has Zhu Fan's phone number written on it. She should remember it. He asks the girl to call him immediately if something happens. The girl takes a piece of paper, is going to say something in response, but does not say. Zhu Fan goes to the window and is about to jump out, but adds that he leaves Meng under the supervision of Sheoxing for a while, promises to return soon. After these words, he disappears outside the window. The girl looks out the window, surprised that this guy can even fly. Zhu Fan finds himself in a place where several buildings are located almost closely. He's standing by the fence, looking around. The demon didn't expect that there would be so many monsters living in such an abandoned place like this. It seems to be their headquarters. Monsters look out from everywhere, from the darkness, from a pile of boxes. Zhu Fan tells them to stop hiding and asks them to show themselves to him. Now there are even more creatures around. They stick out even from the ground and look different. Someone has 4 arms. Someone has eyes all over his body. One monster turns to Zhu Fan, asking if he has any talent, since he was able to detect them all. Is he a cultivator? There is another monster standing next to the speaker, a beautiful girl with a tail and in white clothes. Zhu Fan yawns to show how bored he is with this conversation. He says he doesn't chat with brats, so he demands that they call their leader. He needs to see him for something. The monster, who was called a brat, screamed, "Who is this guy? Their boss is not the one who shows up for any reason." The demon says that he wanted to do without violence, but after such words asks not to blame him for rudeness. The monster shouts that he wants to see how rude this guy can be. He calls on everyone else to attack him, and he also runs forward. Zhu Fan stops the little man with one hand, and all the others also instantly freeze in their places. The monster pulls his hand forward, but does not have time to do anything. Zhu Fan hits the one with his head on the ground, which cracks from the force of this blow. The demon repeats again, the monsters must hurry up and call their boss. How can the rest of the brats compete with him? The newly beaten monster is lying on the ground. His face is bruised, blood is flowing from his nose, but he continues to pour out threats, saying that this boy is finished, because their boss is the demon emperor of the underworld. Anyone who dares to make a noise on their territory will doom himself to death. Zhu Fan smiles. He asks how their boss can be a rival to him if he is just a demon emperor. The voice of the demon emperor is heard. He asks what is happening today. He was awakened from a dream, so someone also dared to doubt his abilities. The shadow of a large beast appears, and then he himself comes out into the light, calling the guest a stinking brat. The leader of all these creatures looks like a big gray wolf with blue glowing eyes. The same talkative monster complains to his emperor, reporting that the guy is the one who disturbed his sleep and crippled many of them. The emperor is angry. He turns to Zhu Fan, asking how he dared to look for trouble on his territory. Asks him to tell how the boy wants to die. Zhu Fan just laughs, asking again, how does he want to die? Does the emperor really believe that he can send him straight to hell alone? The monster that has been standing up for the emperor all this time calls Zhu Fan a bastard. How dare he say that? Because their emperor can kill him with a snap of his fingers. The rest of the monsters instantly pick up, nodding and asking the emperor to kill this insolent man. Zhu Fan stands with his arms crossed over his chest and says that their emperor needs a snap of his fingers to kill him. But he, Zhu Fan himself, can kill him without it. The beast says that no one, except the venerable demon, has been saying something like this to him for a long time. A blue flame lights up around him. All sorts of debris rises up. He moves towards the guy, warning that his song is sung. He will not be able to control these demonic creatures if he does not kill this impudent man who made a noise on their territory. The emperor roars loudly, directing all those fragments at the enemy, but they only crash into the protective barrier. None of them reaches the target, landing side by side. Zhu Fan is unharmed. Demons open their mouths wide. The emperor is mentally amazed that the guy was able to stop all his attacks. Who is he anyway, after all? A smirk appears on Zhu Fan's face. He turns to the beast by name, Xiao Bai, and says that he can't believe that after so much time there is no progress in his abilities. Now the beast is even more surprised. He asks how he knows his name. The demon smiles, asking the answer question, does Xiao Bai really not remember him? Then he is ready to give a hint. A hellish blue flame lights up behind Zhu Fan's back and in his hand. It seems to him that now Xiao Bai has been able to guess who is standing in front of him. Xiao Bai looks at the demon in disbelief. His legs are buckling. The other creatures looking at these two are wondering why their emperor's legs are shaking. Someone concludes that this is out of rage, and this worthless boy is now waiting for death. But none of the expectations of others came true. Xiao Bai changes in the eyes. From a fierce proud wolf turns into a guilty puppy. He calls Zhu Fan venerable. Now the demon praises him. He hadn't seen Xiao Bai for so long, 100 years, and now Xiao Bai dared to go against him. Xiao Bai grabs his head with his paws, asking for forgiveness from the venerable demon. What is happening does not fit into the head of the other monsters at all. They only ask in chorus what is going on here.